This is one of the Japanese paper balloons, identified by the codename Paper.
From bat bombs to exploding rats, the creativity and weirdness of World War II brought about some of the strangest weapons ever imagined. I'm James Hanson, and today we're journeying into the eccentric side of wartime history with some of the strangest, most imaginative weapons ever created. These aren't your guns or tanks, they're odd, experimental, and sometimes downright bizarre. Welcome to our countdown of the top 10 weirdest weapons of World War II. Alright, starting off our list at number 10 is the sticky bomb. Officially known as the number 74 sticky bomb, it was an innovative anti-tank weapon developed by British forces during World War II. Designed for close combat, it featured a simple yet effective mechanism, a gelatinous adhesive substance that allowed it to stick to armoured vehicles upon impact. The sticky bomb consisted of a spherical container filled with explosive material, typically gelignite, and it was fitted with a simple fuse. Soldiers would throw or launch the bomb at enemy vehicles, relying on the adhesive to ensure it adhered to the surface. Once stuck, the bomb would detonate, causing significant damage to the target. The design of the sticky bomb allowed for ease of use and deployment, empowering soldiers to engage enemy armour effectively. While its effectiveness varied depending on the conditions and the skill of the user, the sticky bomb played a notable role in the arsenal of Allied forces, exemplifying ingenuity in the face of technological challenges during the war. Next, we have the German wind cannon, known as the Wunderwaffe, or wonder weapon. The wind cannon was a conceptual artillery piece developed during the Second World War, designed to use compressed air or explosive force to propel projectiles at high speeds. The wind cannon was envisioned as a means to launch shells without traditional gunpowder, which could be advantageous in terms of ammunition supply and handling. The concept relied on harnessing air pressure to create a powerful blast that could propel projectiles towards enemy targets, potentially offering a stealthier and more efficient means of artillery support. Despite its intriguing design, the wind cannon faced significant technical challenges, including issues with reliability and effectiveness. The complexities of developing a functioning model ultimately hindered its progress, and it never became a viable weapon on the battlefield. While the wind cannon remains a footnote in the history of World War II weaponry, it exemplifies the lengths to which nations would go in their quest for technological superiority and the continuous search for innovative solutions in military applications during the war. Moving on now to anti-tank dogs. Yes, the Soviet Union actually trained dogs to carry explosives and run under enemy tanks. Developed in the early stages of the war, these dogs were trained to carry explosives to enemy tanks, where they would detonate upon reaching their target. The initiative aimed to counter the heavy armour of German tanks, especially during the brutal Eastern Front battles. The training involved teaching the dogs to associate the sound and smell of tanks with food rewards, encouraging them to run under the vehicles carrying a harness with explosives. Once in place, the dog would trigger the explosive device, effectively disabling the tank. While the concept was innovative, the implementation faced numerous challenges. Many dogs were frightened by the chaos of battle, leading to unreliable performance. Additionally, the approach often resulted in the dogs being killed or becoming a hazard to their own troops, as they sometimes returned to their handlers instead of targeting enemy vehicles. Despite these challenges, anti-tank dogs represented a desperate yet creative strategy in a time of dire need. The use of these animals has since sparked ethical discussions about the role of animals in warfare and the lengths to which nations will go in pursuit of victory. Alright, next up is what is known as the Cruml. Just imagine being able to shoot around corners. Well, the Cruml, or curved barrel, was an innovative German weapon accessory developed during World War II, designed to allow soldiers to engage enemies around corners or from behind cover without exposing themselves. This device was an adaptation for the standard Sturmgewehr 44 assault rifle, featuring a bent barrel that could curve the trajectory of a bullet. The Cruml was intended for use in urban warfare, where traditional line-of-sight shooting was often impractical. It consisted of a series of bends in the barrel, typically at a 30-degree or 45-degree angle, enabling soldiers to fire at targets while remaining shielded. The accessory also included a special sighting system to help with accuracy. Despite its promising concept, the Cruml faced significant challenges. The complexities of maintaining accuracy over the barrel's curvature led to inconsistent performance, and the additional weight and bulk made the weapon cumbersome. Moreover, issues with bullet stabilization and the risk of weapon jamming added to its drawbacks. Only a limited number of Cruml units were produced, and they saw little operational use. Nevertheless, the device remains a fascinating example of wartime ingenuity, highlighting the lengths to which military designers would go to adapt to the realities of modern combat.
The balloon unit has a paper gas bag, 64 rope shrouds about 40 feet long, and an automatic ballasting and firing control.
Next in our ranking is the Japanese balloon bombs. Officially known as Fugo, the balloon bombs were an unconventional weapon employed by Japan during World War II. Designed to travel across the Pacific Ocean, these incendiary devices aimed to cause destruction and terror in the United States. The balloons were made of lightweight paper and filled with hydrogen, allowing them to rise to high altitudes before drifting on prevailing winds. Each balloon carried a payload of explosives and incendiary materials intended to start fires in American cities and forests. The balloons were launched in clusters, with an estimated 9,000 released between 1944 and 1945. While the campaign aimed to disrupt civilian life and force the US military to divert resources, the actual impact was limited. Only a handful of these balloons reached the US mainland, and their effectiveness was hampered by weather conditions and the challenges of targeting. However, one tragic incident did occur in 1945 when 6 people in Oregon were killed after encountering a balloon while picnicking, marking the only fatalities caused by enemy action on the US mainland during the war. Despite their limited success, the balloon bombs represented a novel approach to psychological warfare, highlighting Japan's desperation and creativity in the later stages of the conflict. Okay, we're halfway through our list now, and it's time to go big or go home as we turn our attention to the Gustav Gun. Also known as Schwerer Gustav, this was a massive railway gun developed by Germany during World War II. Completed in 1941, it was designed by the German engineer Alfred Becker and was constructed to lay siege to heavily fortified targets, particularly the Soviet city of Stalingrad. Weighing nearly 1,350 tons, the Gustav gun was one of the largest artillery pieces ever built. With a caliber of 800mm, it could fire shells weighing up to 7 tons over a distance of approximately 47 kilometres, about 29 miles. The gun's enormous size required extensive logistical support, including a special railway system for transport and enormous concrete bunkers for its operation. It could penetrate the thickest armour and fortifications, making it a formidable weapon in theory. However, its sheer size made it very difficult to manoeuvre, and the lengthy setup time limited its effectiveness on the battlefield. It also suffered from reliability issues and could only fire a limited number of rounds before maintenance was required. The gun was used in the siege of Sevastopol in 1942, but was ultimately a symbol of over-engineering and impracticality in warfare. Next up, and talk about a dirty trick, the British intelligence developed exploding rats during World War II to sabotage German factories. Formerly known as explosive-filled rodents, this was an unconventional and controversial tactic employed by the British during World War II. The idea originated from a plan to use specially trained rats as a means to undermine German forces. The concept involved filling the carcasses of dead rats with explosives and placing them in areas where they could be discovered by enemy troops, particularly in military depots and food storage facilities. The rationale behind this bizarre tactic was to exploit the natural behaviour of soldiers who might not be suspicious of a rat in a wartime environment. When the rats were handled or disturbed, they could detonate, causing damage and sowing chaos among enemy ranks. While the idea was intriguing and demonstrated a level of wartime ingenuity, it was never widely implemented or fully operational. Concerns about ethics, effectiveness and practicality ultimately limited the use of explosive rats. Though largely a footnote in military history, the concept of explosive rats highlights the extremes to which nations would go in their attempts to gain an advantage during the war, blending humour and horror in wartime strategy. Alright, in third place are Pigeon guided missiles. Yes, really. Known as the Project Pigeon or Animal Guided Missile, this was an innovative yet unconventional military project developed during the Second World War. Spearheaded by the behaviourist B.F. Skinner, the project aimed to create a guided missile system that utilised trained pigeons to help steer munitions towards their targets. The concept involved placing pigeons inside the nose of a missile where they would peck at images of targets displayed on a screen. By directing their pecking behaviour, the pigeons would guide the missile towards its intended target. The idea was to leverage the pigeons' keen vision and ability to recognise patterns, allowing them to make adjustments in flight. While the project demonstrated creativity and an interesting application of animal behaviour research, the technology of the time made it difficult to integrate live animals into missile systems effectively. Ultimately, Project Pigeon was never fully realised, and the advent of electronic guidance systems rendered the concept obsolete. Nevertheless, it remains a fascinating example of wartime innovation and the lengths to which military researchers would go to explore unconventional methods of warfare. Taking second spot is the Panjandrum. The Panjandrum was an unconventional and ambitious British weapon developed during World War II, intended for use in the Normandy invasion. This colossal device resembled a giant wheel standing about 3.6 metres tall and weighing over 2,000 kilograms. The Panjandrum was designed to breach coastal defences and clear paths for landing troops by rolling onto enemy fortifications and detonating explosives. The weapon's design featured two large wheels mounted on either side of a central explosive payload. It was propelled by rockets that provided the necessary thrust to achieve high speeds on the beach, with the goal of smashing through barriers like barbed wire and concrete bunkers. Despite its innovative concept, early test runs revealed issues with stability and control, leading to unpredictable behaviour. During trials, some units went off course or detonated prematurely, raising safety concerns. Ultimately, the Panjandrum was deemed impractical and was never used in combat. And here we are then, taking top spot at number 1 in our list is the Bat Bomb. Officially known as Project X-Ray, the Bat Bomb was an unconventional weapon developed by the US during World War II. The idea was to use bats as carriers for small incendiary bombs, which could be released over enemy cities, causing widespread fires and chaos. The project was spearheaded by Dr. Little St. Adams, who proposed the concept in 1942. Each bat would be fitted with a small explosive device, and the plan involved releasing thousands of these bats from a bomber aircraft. The bats would roost in buildings and other structures, and upon awakening would disperse and start fires as they sought shelter. This tactic aimed to target Japanese cities, which had wooden structures that could be vulnerable to fire. Initial tests showed promise, with bats being able to carry the payload and navigate effectively. However, logistical challenges and the complexities of training the bats for effective deployment became significant hurdles. After several trials, including a notable test where bats accidentally ignited the test facility, the project was ultimately shelved in favour of more conventional bombing methods. Despite its failure to reach operational status, the Bat Bomb remains an intriguing example of wartime creativity and the lengths to which military planners would go to explore unconventional warfare strategies during World War II. So there we go, that wraps up our list of the top 10 strangest weapons of World War II. As ever, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, Times Radio History, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.